Before I moved to Texas, I worked with many others for the preservation of history and in ceremonies for the fallen. I have taken many students to Arlington Memorial Cemetery and on the Pickett's Charge Stroll of Cemetery Ridge. I have lit the candles for the Antietam Memorial Celebration, and I used to spend sunrise on Veterans Day laying flowers at the base of the panels containing the names of my friends who died there. One of the things of which I am proudest is helping to raise funds for the World War II Veterans Memorial with a dear friend of mine from college who worked feverishly to have it erected in time for those surviving veterans of that war to see it before they died. Confederate monuments have always been contentious, but for me the differentiation is that there are memorials to the Confederacy and there are memorials to the Confederate soldier. Some do not acknowledge the difference. I do. I think that all the memorials on Civil War battlefields and in the graveyards and the final resting places of soldiers who fell in battle are on hallowed ground and should be treated that way. Every statue, every memorial, every battle flag of every unit, every painted stone with either the Confederate flag or the Union flag painted on it with the name of someone who died, left there by their ancestors to honor them. I think that in the 50s and 60s, the statue and monuments were political statements. Something that is not appropriate to this particular forum and worthy of a forum by itself. I think that the statues placed in the late 1800s, early 1900s, of which the statue on the courthouse lawn, as one should be judged on their inscriptions. The inscriptions engraved on monuments during that time are homages to the Confederacy. They take a long time to read. I looked at them, they're about a minute apiece, and they have very flowery language in it. Eat up my time. So, I want to talk about the Confederate statue there. Around the base is written cavalry, infantry, artillery, and navy. On the east sides of the base, east and west sides of the base, are Confederate soldiers. Okay. On the south side, is written simply, in memory of the Confederate soldiers and sailors erected under the auspices of the UDC of Williamson County, 1916. And on the east side is written, no braver patriots ever fought, no braver deeds were ever wrought. And that is the way I see this statue, not politically, not in terms of agendas, not in terms of things that we wish did happen or didn't happen, or things that we wish would happen. Now, people ask me what I would like to see, and what I would like to see is the plaque on the courthouse door referring to the Negro pioneers removed and replaced with something closer to the historical truth. What I would suggest is that the placement of signage or a museum box explaining that Williamson County voted twice against secession, and when it passed, soldiers answered the call of the state of Texas and fought. What we bring to this statue and this current controversy is the product of our own sensibilities. But who that statue honor bought it with their lives.
And Mr. Spoon, if you could just go ahead and conclude what you're saying real quick if you can. Thank you.
Okay. The statue also may or may not be one of the few statues of that period with embedded lighting. I'm not sure, but I will be researching that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spoon. One of the hardest parts of my job will be to try to make sure that I'm fair, so each individual is given the same opportunity to share their views. Mr. Carl Braun, if you will.
Good evening, everyone. I want to first thank the Georgetown Community Forum for taking on difficult discussions and bringing them to the public discourse. It's very honorable, and it's very much worthwhile, I think, in being able to sit down and civilly talk about these things in what Wayne Dawson likes to call chautauquas, which are peaceful discussions amongst people in the community. I have a confession to make right out of the gate. I am not a Southerner. In fact, I was born a poor Yankee child, raised on the wrong side of the tracks in New Jersey. Now, a lot's been said about this Veterans Memorial has to do with justice, slavery, and race. And let me tell you what this white guy knows about race. And at the very beginning, not a whole lot. I grew up in a very white community. My first exposure to race was meeting James Worthy. He was the only black child in our school, in our high school. And he was preceded by Timmy Hamilton, so I know them both. And there were 500 kids that graduated in my class in high school. It was the largest school system in the state of New Jersey. And yet in 1975, there was absolutely no diversity in Toms River, New Jersey. Today, it's called Toms Rio. A little bit different today than it was back then. I grew up with mostly Irish kids, Italian kids, German kids, myself being German and Irish. But through my service in the United States Air Force Security Police, and the course of my career as a recruiter, now over 35 years, I got educated on race. And as someone who's put thousands of people to work over the years, I'm all too familiar with the inherent injustices of our system as we moved through the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and 90s, and so on. In some circles, I should say, and in fact, in many of the online recruiting circles, I'm referred to as the father of diversity recruiting, which I'm sure appears to be quite odd. I spent 35 years helping men, women, and minorities and veterans get equal opportunity to be considered. Not giving them a hand up to be hired, but giving them an equal opportunity to be considered for a job based on things that they're eminently qualified for, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, and so on. I spent 10 years of my life working to secure the southern border to protect those jobs that these and other Americans, just like you, have worked so hard for. So given I'm a damn Yankee, but I did get here as quick as I could, by the way, and spent years working in diverse circles, why on earth would I be supporting keeping a Confederate Veterans Memorial right where it is? That's really the question. Because for me, and for many people, it's not about slavery, and it's not about race. Many people, German and Irish, came here, my people, German and Irish, came here in the late 1880s and early 1990s, so we didn't have a dog in this hunt. It was a completely different United States that we came into. So why is this important to me? Because no matter what anyone says, and I have the stats to back me up right here, this is not about race. Was the Civil War fought because of slavery? Well, that really depends. If you look at the declarations of secession, slavery played a 54% role in the discussion here in Texas. It played a less significant role in South Carolina, where it was only 20% of the secession document, and quite a greater role in Mississippi, where it was 73%. People tend to like to roll everything into one thing and blanket it with one term, and the South was very divided on the subject of slavery, but it was not divided on some other things. Some of those other things I'll get to in just a moment. What I would like to say is, I was born in 1845-48, right around there in New Jersey, and I was conscripted for the Union in the War of Northern Aggression, war between the states, Civil War, call it what you like. I would likely have been conscripted into one of the 19 regiments in the Army of the Potomac, and I would have had to fight. I wouldn't have had a choice. No doubt, unless I was rich, in which case I wouldn't have had to fight for